Okay, that's good. So you became a teenager later, and did you have a fear of someone not loving you because you have diabetes?
I did. I was a little bit ashamed, that I had diabetes, and I can remember on many occasions where, I would just let my blood sugar run high because I didn't want to have a syringe in my pocket. I mean, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, when you're young and you're worried about that, type of thing. The last thing I want someone to do is, see me with an insulin, syringe in my pocket or a vial. So I used to hide it. I definitely, I want to say, hid it when I was in high school. When I was in college, I was lucky enough to have a roommate who also had diabetes, believe it or not. And there was another really good friend of mine who had diabetes too. So we had these three, one girl and two guys who had diabetes. So we were just open with everything. And it was really good because the people around us were pretty open too. So, doing an insulin injection when I was in college wasn't as a big deal. But in the back of my head, and still, I was always worried if somebody thought, that I was different because I had this disease. And, why would somebody want to date me if I have to do 10 injections a day? I mean, I don't know if I could handle that. Something's got to be wrong with this person, I think, is what I always thought. But, you just have to be who you are, and you can't let an insulin pump in your pocket be the reason to not go up and say hello to somebody. Because I think ultimately once you make a connection with a person, they'll then understand what your imperfections are. And if one of your imperfections is diabetes, well, everybody has some type of imperfection, So at least that one you can talk about to them. And I think you would know right away once you started talking to the person that, let's say, you were interested in, if they kind of were, I don't know, I don't want to say hesitant at first, because if I met somebody and they told me they were type 1 and I wasn't, I'd kind of be like, what is that, I think the questions that people start asking back to me that I was interested in, they were more thoughtful questions like, well, what does it feel like to have diabetes? And like, is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can help you with? And let me know the important things. And I think those are the smart questions to kind of tune into, because I do unfortunately think some people think of it as a disadvantage or a real big negative to some people if they're looking for a love interest. I do feel that way.
Exactly. So now you have a wonderful wife who supports you this.
Yes.
So how did she first adjust with you? How did she deal with all this stuff with you?
She kind of got tossed right into the fire, believe it or not. At that time I wasn't as smart as to say, or as experienced with relationships, really. I've been with my wife since I was 18 years old. So, I didn't have these relationships experiences or failures and successes where, if I was meeting someone, I would, definitely let them know that. So she became attentive, right away to what my needs were in certain situations. And it wasn't until later on that we started to get a better game plan of what to do when my blood sugar was low. And just for example, saying you have a low blood sugar is one thing, but we know that there's several stages of a low blood sugar. It's like I kind of feel low, I'm getting really low, and then the emergency, I need your help because I can't help myself low. So we kind of recognize these stages. Instead of having my wife have a panic attack when I said I have a low blood sugar, I then reverberate to her what type of a low blood sugar it is, so she's not freaking out and panicking and grabbing 20 juice boxes. But it's a low that I can handle, or if it's a low that I need help with, I just definitely let her know.
Okay, so you do a lot of this YouTube videos, and you're very active in all these social network forums and all this stuff. So, and your message is just one thing. It's all about attitude. It's all about attitude. Right. So what is this message that you want to pass to the diabetic community?
Yeah, my message is really this, is I'm just a normal guy. I have nothing special, really to offer. I just have about 23 years of experiencing diabetes and all the highs and lows. And when it comes down to it, it really is all about your attitude. With diabetes, or with anything you do, 90% of the outcome or the success is your attitude towards it. So relating that to diabetes is really the ultimate goal. And for me, I try to make diabetes less stressful in my life. And the way to do that is kind of having experiences, good and bad, and recognizing when a situation similar comes up so that you can make the kind of correct adjustments for it. But I think also using these social media outlets to find out what other people are doing, you can kind of make it your own, make your diabetes your own diabetes and your management your own, and have it be the most successful that it can be, and I think that's such a great thing to do.
Okay. So the other question is, do you like your spouse or coworker or your mom and dad, when you were a teenager, keep policing you, telling, hey Bill, check your blood sugar, hey Bill, come on, do this, you can't eat this, you can't have that? So how is that like?
I still do. It's funny. And I've done a couple videos about how when somebody's asking you to check your blood sugar, it's really saying that they love you, is really what it means.
Don't get offended.
Yeah, it's hard not to because of this. When they're asking you to check your blood sugar, it's probably because you're either high or low. And when you're high and low, at least for me, I'm more susceptible to mood swings. So when someone's telling me to check my blood sugar, I'll just zap right back at them and say, yeah, whatever, or just, kind of just shrug it off. But when I was a kid, my mom would say, test your blood sugar. And I know, like, the PC thing to do now is say, check your blood sugar. But I grew up fine with my mother telling me to test my blood sugar. I think I came out all right. So I don't think that's such a big deal. But the reality is, I think the majority of the time when the police are telling you to do something, the diabetic police, it's because there's something wrong. So think of it more as they love you and they're worried about you. And then just check your blood sugar. Right?
Positive things that occurred in your life due to this diabetes.
Well, one of them was my job out of college. I took a job with a pharmaceutical company, one that I knew of because of the insulin that I used to take, and had a real positive attitude towards this company. And I remember going back to my college and visiting with the health director, because I was involved in student affairs and student government, and I was had a really good relationship with the health director, because every time I went to health services in college, I was almost like this case study. It was like, okay, here comes Bill. He has the flu, but he also has type 1 diabetes. So like everybody came around to kind of check me out. But the one good thing that came out of it, and I never thought it would happen, and I remember saying this to my health director, is I said, I think this is the first time that diabetes benefited me in a way, because I had these experiences, because I was comfortable in a hospital setting, and because I was comfortable in doctors' offices. I had an advantage when I was interviewing for this position specifically, so it helped me out. The other thing that's been positive, and there's been a ton of positive things, one of them is I've been able to understand my body better. And what I mean by that is I have, and you have, and anybody who has diabetes has this sixth sense of a feeling that nobody else really has. And I think having diabetes, I've understood a little bit more the value of my health, the value of these feelings that I have, and being able to recognize these feelings and recognizing when I need to do something about them. So in an odd way, having this disease has actually helped me understand myself a lot better.
So now you have a daughter, a 9-month-old daughter. So anytime did you have this weird thought in your mind that, how about if my daughter is diagnosed with diabetes?
No, it did. It absolutely did. It came both to me and my wife. We looked at some of the statistics of, the genetics of it and what her likelihood was if, she was going to develop type 1 diabetes. And I know parents who are type 1 diabetic and have children that have type 1 diabetes. And ultimately, if it did happen, I think it would be, I don't want to say a good thing, because it wouldn't be a good thing, but I think she'd be really lucky to have somebody like me to help her out and help her manage her diabetes, if that did come, if that did happen. So, sure, we're scared of it, just like you're scared with your kids falling down when they're running and things like that. But I think we'd be prepared. And I don't think many other parents can say that, so that's why I'm kind of saying, you know, it's not a good thing. But I'd be prepared, and our family would be prepared, and I think ultimately it would have less of an impact on her personality and her disposition because we wouldn't allow that to take place, and we would be confident. And I think we'd be able to share that confidence with her if she had diabetes so that she could manage it properly.
Okay. So this question, I keep asking this everyone. What are some of the true things that you learn hard way? It's only you that learn out there. No one didn't teach you.
Oh my gosh. You know, nobody can teach you what a low blood sugar feels like. Sure, there's a list of dizziness and sweaty and, you know, all this shaking, but you really have to learn what a low blood sugar is on your own. And if you're lucky enough to have awareness of these low blood sugars, you know, it's definitely something to tune into. So kind of the hard way, you know, I learned about having a low blood sugar was that example that I said where I had my first seizure. I didn't really understand how serious low blood sugars were. And I had to learn that on my own. The other thing that I want to say I learned on my own, and it took a lot of time, was that it's okay to test my blood sugar a lot, and it's okay to do insulin injections a lot. And what I mean by that is, you know, having, you know, testing only 3 or 4 times a day, which is the standard regimen, but testing more isn't a bad thing. It was a good thing. And doing smaller injections, multiple daily injections, where before it was more strict, regimented, routine injections throughout the day because of the insulin. And because we have faster insulins, multiple daily injections are now a possibility. I learned myself that it's no big deal to take out my insulin pen and do an injection. People right in front of me don't even realize that. So I think that's something I kind of taught myself, was that the more information I had, the better I could stay in that straight line, in that good line with my diabetes glucose management. So, you know, sure, people are going to tell you to do that maybe now, but back when I was doing it, it was actually looked down upon. I remember going to CVS to pick up my prescriptions, and the pharmacist literally yelling at me, telling me I was testing my blood sugar too much. And I'm like, you know how long it took me to start testing too much? You're crazy. So, so that's something that, you know, you got to learn on your own. And you got to learn, I think, even more importantly, what to do with each number that, you know, comes up. I mean, just because you're 120 doesn't mean it's not something that you have to act upon if you're 120 and your blood sugar's going down.
So your final message to the diabetic community?
You know, the final message is, listen, everybody just be yourself out there, and I think we're all doing that. And I think if you have enough courage to write a blog, to take a photograph of yourself and, you know, tell a little story, and if you have enough confidence to come and do a video and just talk about you, talk about yourself, you don't realize the impact that you're having on people throughout the whole world. And I never realized that too. I've been doing diabetes videos for over 3 years, and literally the only reason that I keep doing these videos is because of the responses that I get from people all over the world that can see you and can see that diabetes is a burden, but you can overcome this burden, is really such a great thing. So don't think you don't have something to share. You know, don't think that, oh, I can't do this. Give it a try and see what people say. And you know what? If you don't like what people are saying and it makes you feel uncomfortable, I understand. But just remember that you have an opportunity out there to share an experience that you had, so that maybe somebody else can learn from that experience. And I think that's really, you know, the strongest message out there for the diabetes community, is keep sharing our experiences.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts. Have a nice Father's Day.
Thank you so much, Vijay. Take care, buddy.
You too.